Hello YouTubers and fellow rowing machine enthusiasts. Do you know what these numbers mean? No? Well, today we're going to find out. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion with what the numbers mean on these rowing machine screens. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over each screen that you can see on these rowing machines, tell you what they mean and hopefully clear some stuff up for you. And then we'll talk about the units themselves and see if we can hone in those workouts for you and make them just that little bit more effective. So we're going to start off with the first screen on the rowing machine, the most simple one. It only has 4 different variables, unless you add in your heart rate. And those are the time elapsed at the very top, the speed in the middle, the distance, and in the bottom left, you have your strokes per minute, how many strokes you are taking per minute. And moving on to the second screen that we can see, very similar to the first one where there are 4 variables at the top, then on the bottom you have a bar chart that will change with every stroke that you take. And that is a value of your power per stroke, so it's really good to see if you can stay consistent every stroke rather than pulling a hard stroke and then a light one, then a hard one. With this bar chart at the bottom, you can really hone in on your consistency per stroke. Screen number 3, we have the pace boat at the bottom. So the same as the last one at the top and the pace boat at the bottom. Again, this is an opportunity for you to make yourself that little bit more consistent and even that little bit more efficient. So at the start of the workouts, when you're filling in which workout you're doing, you can set a pace boat. So you can choose the speed of that boat, and then looking at the bottom half of this screen, you can see, okay, how far I am ahead or how far I am behind. And this can really give you that little bit of motivation when it's really into a hard workout and just give you that little bit extra to get that PB or to beat that person next to you, or again to beat that pace boat. So screen number 4 is the power curve. So it's the same at the top, and then at the bottom we have the power curve. So this is very similar to the second screen we had, but instead of having every stroke laid out on a bar chart, you can have each individual stroke and how that looks. The advantage of this is you get to see how you are pushing with the legs every single stroke. This chart itself can have a whole video dedicated to itself, but basically the curve follows the handle. So the curve itself shows you how you're applying power through the stroke. Generally, it has a peak at some point close to the middle, and then it falls off either side. So it builds up and then falls down, and you want to try, and the ideal curve is almost an oblong or a square, but it's very difficult to do that as we are not robots and we can't produce power like this. We have to build through and then come down. But again, that could be a whole video dedicated to itself, and using this to make yourself that little bit more consistent again can make huge gains in your rowing. And the last screen, the one that I use most often, you have your average per 500, you have your split meters, so that's how many meters you've completed in a given time depending on your workout, and your projected finish in meters as well. And so that can change depending on your screen, but the reason I use this most is because I have all of the really easy, really immediate data at the top, and at the bottom it's a little bit more averaged out, so it means that I can plan my workouts in the middle of the workouts and know that, okay, if I averaged this or I am averaging this, then I need to do that to finish the workout where I want to. And it gives me sort of, it's the projected time or the projected distance as well. It means, okay, if I want to push that little bit extra to finish a little bit faster or go a little bit further, then I have that number right there and I can use that for a little bit of motivation at the end of the workout. Just like the pace boat screen, it can really give you that little edge, especially when you're working out by yourself, to see if I push just a little bit harder, I might get an extra meter or 2 and maybe end up with a PB. Now we'll go over the units that you'll see on the rowing machine screen itself and what they actually mean. So it boils down to 3 different units: the time per 500 meters, the watts you're generating per stroke, and the calories you're burning per hour. So we'll start off with the time per 500 meters, or the split. That is 500 meters because that is the gold standard, or that is a very big standard for rowing in general. And as a rowing athlete myself, I use the time per 500 meters to compare across the board. The 500 meter split is a easily compared number across all of rowing, and that's why it's involved in the rowing machine screen. So moving on to the second unit, the watts generated per stroke, the power that you are generating every stroke. And this power that you're generating every stroke, the number you see on the screen is very, very variable. Just like what we'll talk about in a second, the calories per hour, because there is such a wide range of numbers that you'll go through. So for your watts, you will actually see a range of around 1,000 units. For your split, you might see maybe 40 to 50 units difference. And for your calories, you might see 2,000 units of difference. So with calories and watts, it can be quite difficult to keep it really consistent, but you can use the watts and you can use the calories per hour to really hone in on your consistency. If you can do the same amount of watts every single stroke, then you can really say to yourself, I've been really, really consistent. But the watts themselves is just another measure of how much pressure you're applying to the machine. Now we move on to the calories per hour, which I think a lot of confusion comes up with this. Like I said, it is very variable, probably the most variable number on the rowing machine. So if you're able to produce the same amount of calories per hour per stroke, every stroke, repeatedly, again and again, then you're being extremely, extremely consistent, which can really help you out in the workout itself. But the number itself generally isn't very accurate in actual calories burned. So the calculation itself really depends on the type of person, and the type of person they've based on the calculation is a 175-pound person. So if you are not 175 pounds, then the calculation doesn't apply to you, and the calories you're seeing on the screen don't necessarily apply to you. It will be in a ballpark, but if you are 25 pounds under or 25 pounds over, then you will not be burning the calories that you see on the screen. And obviously with calories burned, depending on how fit you are, it can vary. So the 175-pound person, is that person fit? Is that person not fit? You don't really know. So with someone who is very efficient and very fit, you'll be burning less calories at the same calories per hour on the machine than you would if you were less fit and you were pulling the same calories per hour on the screen. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the calories per hour, because yes, it may give you a number of, okay, I've burned this many calories, but it can lead to a little bit of confusion when, say, you look at your heart rate monitor or your different fitness apps that say I've burned 500 calories and then the screen says you've burned 400. So take the number the calories per hour gives you with a pinch of salt and know that it may not be completely accurate for you, but again, it does give you a ballpark figure. And another advantage with the calories per hour, really brought along by CrossFit and the workouts they're doing, when you're on the rower or the bike erg or whatever it is, your workouts can be measured in calories, which initially I thought that's a bit strange, because why don't you just use distance? But it can give you that little bit different, a little bit more accurate workouts when you're saying, okay, I need to do 20 calories. How efficient can I be doing 20 calories on the rowing machine? But like I said, you're not actually burning 20 calories. You are burning 20 calories according to the rower and not actually yourself. So you can really work on your efficiency again using the calories per hour, but again, it is a very variable unit to use. And that will be it for today's episode. Hopefully it's cleared up any confusion that you may have had on what you see on the screen itself. If you do have any more questions about what you see on the screen or about the rowing machine itself, then let me know in the comments below and I'll try and answer them as best I can. I do have a video coming up about rowing machine technique, so make sure you are subscribed for that. And as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next episode.